achieved.
So in the world of MMA right now, we are dealing with a scenario with Jon Jones, who appears to be willing to walk away from mixed martial arts, take a prolonged break. He is a little bit disappointed, to say the least, with the fact that he wanted to fight Francis Ngannou, a big marquee matchup, move up to heavyweight, and felt that his conversations with the UFC didn't go in the direction he wanted as far as the financial return. And I do get where he's saying, because right now you look at Jon Jones and you look at that Francis Ngannou fight and you say there aren't a lot of bigger fights out there. Of course, there's a couple that rival it, but that's a pretty massive fight. This massive wrecking machine in the heavyweight division taking on the greatest of all time light heavyweight in a super fight. And if that's not going to bring Jon Jones in the money, he's not gonna. What else do you have left to do? Where else can you go to make that cash? And I think Jon Jones recognizes that with his last fight, which was much closer, last two fights were much closer than previous bouts, is his time as an elite unstoppable force coming to an end? Does he need to strike now, capitalize now, make that big cash? Because, if he loses his next fight, if he does fight in the UFC again, which I think he will, if he loses his next fight with the title on the line, his drawing power goes backwards. And we've seen so many champions lose their title, and it's all downhill. Sometimes it's more gradual than others. Sometimes it's a very steep drop-off, and they never recover. And I think maybe, being a smart individual, he recognizes that. I'm sure there's a lot more politics than that involved, but hey, it's a very telling scenario. When do you need to get paid? How do you need to get paid? Henry Cejudo walking away from the UFC as a guy who basically beat some of the top fighters in the division, won 2 titles, and apparently wasn't being offered the money he felt he should have been offered. And he's had enough. That's it. Time to move on. And I can understand that. I really don't have any qualms with that. As far as if you're not getting paid what you think you're worth, and again with Henry Cejudo, what more do you need to accomplish to be able to write your own ticket? So as long as it's not ridiculous, and maybe it was as far as Dana's concerned, I think something needs to be done as far as compensating these individuals greater. Again, I know that's been a huge issue, and I'm not telling you anything smart MMA fans already don't know, but it's certainly something worth talking about. Welcome back to Kamikaze Overdrive MMA Predictions. As always, I am your host, Scott Johnson. And on this episode of the show, we are breaking down the upcoming UFC 250, which will transpire on June 9th from the UFC Apex Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'll be giving you my 5 main card predictions. As per usual, all of my preliminary picks, I believe there are 7 in total, will be going down in the prelims, so you'll have to check those out. We've got ourselves a women's featherweight title. We've got a couple of, actually 3 fairly interesting bantamweight bouts, and a pretty cool welterweight fight. This is one of those cards that we're not seeing a ton of high marquee matchups top to bottom, but they're all really good matchups. They're all very intriguing, and I think there's a lot of fun to be had with this card, so we'll have to check that out. I'm coming off a show in which I kind of snapped a couple of my struggles. I snapped my 4 main event losing streak, getting Gilbert Burns correct. Love that fight. Tyron Woodley, an example of a champion who's kind of, really took a downward turn. Has taken a downward turn since losing the title. In addition to that, my bet pack, again, my HBC bet pack, 27.55 units profit. That is the 6th time in the last 7 events we've profited. So, hey, my CBC, again, it's a big risk-reward situation. So we're looking to hit huge or not at all. So it's one of those two things, and unfortunately it's not at all in most cases. But, hey, the HBC is returning profit, so hopefully for $15 you can hook up with that, and we'll see how that goes. But on that note, we have... before I go... KO_predictions on Twitter if you want to follow me there. I tweet as much as I possibly can, but again, hey, by the time I get to Saturday night, I just want to sit back and enjoy the fights at times. I'll throw out some barbs here and there and some comments and what have you, and respond if you want to fire something out as well. But hey, we're doing what we can. On that note, let's get to our first main card prediction. The opening fight of the main card goes down in the UFC Bantamweight division, the first of 3 Bantamweight fights on the pay-per-view, featuring Sugar Sean O'Malley, undefeated 11-0, taking on the former WEC champion and UFC title challenger, the 24-13-1 Eddie Wineland. Currently, Wineland a sizable underdog at plus 380. Sean O'Malley as the favorite at minus 500. Now, as I said, O'Malley's undefeated. He's 3-0 in the UFC. Finished Jose Quinones, in his last fight after a 2-year layoff to do with some failed drug tests. Getting, and again, definitely some questionable things going on there. Getting his first big name. Eddie Wineland's one of those big names that he's looking to build his resume on and kind of use that as a stepping stone to even bigger opportunities. For Wineland, he had lost back-to-back fights against John Dodson and Alejandro Perez, which ended a 2-fight winning streak, but he rebounded with a very impressive TKO victory over Grigory Popov in his last fight. Very solid victory. To say the least. I got that one bang on. And so he's coming in here with a little bit of momentum. O'Malley, 4 inches taller than Wineland, 3-inch reach advantage, and he's the younger man by 10 years. No, O'Malley is one of these guys that the UFC is banking on as a potential future superstar. Hey, a superstar right now who is talented, charismatic, and can really push that needle, if you will. He looked very good in his last fight, but it's a small sample size. Didn't get to see a heck of a lot of fight. I felt nothing against Quinones. I felt he folded up pretty quick in that matchup and didn't deal with a lot of adversity before the matchup was over. O'Malley throws a wide variety of techniques: spin kicks, body kicks, hard low kicks. Throws a nice left jab. In the fight, he threw a spinning back fist to a head kick combination. Unbelievable. He switches his stances very smoothly. He's just very good. He also showcased he can do work on the mat from both top and bottom position. I really like the way against Quinones he was able to move in and out of range, landing his offense and then sliding out, and really seeing and anticipating everything Quinones was going to do and just avoiding it very masterfully. I didn't take a lot of damage, and then again getting himself back in range to hit his opponent and then slide out. Just an overall very flawless and impressive performance, and again showcasing why the UFC is investing so much in him. Now for Eddie Wineland, the guy's a veteran. He's faced some of the best fighters in the world. I've always wanted to see Eddie Wineland versus Dominic Cruz, and if Eddie Wineland loses this matchup, I actually wouldn't mind seeing that fight at all. I think it'd be kind of a cool striking, back-and-forth striking matchup. But Wineland's a very unorthodox striker. He holds his hands down. He's got a lot of odd movement. He relies very heavily on his head movement to avoid taking damage, and then he can slip and rip and counter-strike and just simply be in positions you're not expecting him to be and throw strikes from angles you're not anticipating, because he doesn't do it like anybody else does. He's got big power in his right hand, 15 wins by knockout overall. 8 of his last 9 wins have come by KO, and he's a boxing-heavy fighter. Against Popov, he hurt him with a counter right hand, and Popov kind of threw a naked knee to the body and kind of dropped him early midway through the first round. He's relatively aggressive, or at least been more aggressive his last couple of fights moving forward. He doesn't always let his hands go. You go back to the Brian Caraway matchup where he was pressuring Caraway, he was defending the takedowns because he has excellent takedown defense, but despite pressuring, he wasn't boxing up Caraway, and he actually lost that fight on the feet in a matchup he probably should have won based on how good his defense worked. Now, he utilized a lot more pressure against Popov, looking to negate some of his kicking attack, and that was very effective. He wanted to be more aggressive, pushed that pace early on. He eventually got Popov out of there with a series of right hands, and he put a lot of damage on him before knocking him out. Now, on the flip side for Eddie Wineland, 3 losses by KO. He's 1-5 in his last 6 decisions. The only win would be a split decision over Brad Pickett. He was dropped a couple of times by Popov, and his chin certainly isn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. You go back to his interim title fight against Renan Barão, he was dropped by a spinning back kick. He got rocked and knocked out by Johnny Eduardo. He's had some issues with a broken jaw as well, so his durability is a bit of a question mark. And while his movement is unorthodox, I think he just tends to rely too much on his boxing and his speed and timing, and he can be figured out a little bit. And his right hand, while very effective, it kind of renders him a little bit, I don't want to say simplistic, but at times predictable as far as where he's going to do his damage. O'Malley has considerably more tools in this fight, and while if Wineland does connect with that right hand, it could mean some bad things for Sugar Sean. I think his chances of connecting are very limited. Look for O'Malley to use his speed and smooth striking attack. That reach will also play a role here. Look for him to negate Wineland's movement and avoid his power by using that distance, using that speed, using the kicking attack as well. I think he'll eventually land something big. Again, those kicks will play a big role. And as much as I would love to see Eddie Wineland win this fight, and if he does, I'll be very happy for him. My prediction is Sean O'Malley to defeat Eddie Wineland by knockout. The heaviest fight on the pay-per-view goes down in the UFC's welterweight division as Neil Magny, with a current record of 22 wins and 7 losses, takes on Anthony Rocco Martin, 17 wins and 5 losses. This is an excellent fight. The line is very solid on this one. Magny at -150 as the favorite. Rocco Martin returning a +125 as the slight dog. Now, Magny returned after a long layoff and absolutely smoked Li Jingliang. He had his moments. Li Jingliang had his moments, but Magny dominated the majority of the fight as a bit of an underdog in that bout. He had and Lee was coming in on some momentum and certainly building a name for himself. Magny has won 3 of his last 4. For Rocco Martin, he took a decision from Ramazan Ameev in Russia. I liked Martin in that matchup. I picked him to win that. Very impressive to go into Russia and beat one of their own. It was a nice rebound from a loss against Damian Maia that snapped his 4-fight winning streak and really took a little momentum away, but not that much because, a lot of people lost Damian Maia and he's rebounded nicely. Physically, Magny 3 inches taller, 7-inch reach advantage. He's the older fighter by 2 years. And of course, Rocco Martin, a former lightweight, coming up to welterweight, where his body just seems more suited for this to carry this weight and to not drain himself so much. Now, looking at Rocco Martin, he's a big man. As I just said, he's a despite coming up from lightweight, he's not small by any stretch of the imagination. I think his cardio's improved because of the move-up. That's good. He's absolutely improved his striking. We saw him knock out Ryan LaFleur not that long ago. His hands, just generally speaking, have looked much better. He's got solid striking, fairly sharp and long. Stiff when he hits guys. It's one of these things where when you see him make connections, it certainly has an impact. And he likes to try and force his opponents into thinking about going to the mat, especially if they're inclined to do so. That's one of his things. Put some pressure on with the striking and then force them into a grappling exchange. Now, despite the fact that he's got a good offensive wrestling, he's an excellent grappler, he doesn't have big takedown numbers. I don't think he's landed a takedown yet at welterweight. He's used his top game more at lightweight with relative effectiveness, but he's excellent on the ground. Very strong, good from top position, good submission skills. He'll attack off his back. He's submitted a number of opponents and done some damage with some ground and pound. When he showed excellent defensive work against Damian Maia, where he's able to limit him on the mat. I think that one of the judges called it a draw in that fight. So that shows you how effective he was in that matchup. It's worth noting he's given up several takedowns. It's double digits over his last handful of fights. But he goes offensive, and he actually turns it into a positive gain if his opponent takes him down. When he fought Ameev, I believe I'm saying that, Ameev, whatever, he limited the Russian success on the mat, and it worked him on the feet, and that's really been one of his keys, is he takes away the grappling game because he's so good at, he takes away grappling game of his opponent because he's so good on the mat, and forces them into a world they're not as comfortable with as he is, which is striking. Now, his striking volume is far from overwhelming. He usually lands between 35 and 55 significant strikes. His cardio hasn't been an issue at welterweight, but he really hasn't been pushed by a high volume quick-paced fighter. You can probably see where I'm going with this. He showcased some nice hard low kicks against Ameev, which he took away some of his base, slowed him down a little bit, and has made his jab, even better because those low kicks made his opponent more stationary, made him, in the places he wanted him to be in order to hit him. Now, Neil Magny, his rise to prominence has come largely because he's improved his ability to use his reach, his defense has become better, and those have become two massive additions to an arsenal that already includes very impressive cardio and a fairly consistent offensive pace. Now, when he fought Lee, he got buzzed early in that matchup. He got hurt. He went to his grappling very effectively, dragged him into the clinch, and kind of took that fight over. He's very good with that jab, doubles and triples it up, follows with the right hand, stepping knee. He's got some nice combinations, and he builds everything behind that jab. And when Magny starts flowing, you are in some serious trouble. He demonstrated some good takedown defense in his last fight. In fact, he can counter takedowns into his own offensive positions. He uses underhooks very well, uses his leverage because he is so much taller to kind of shut down opponents, kind of bring them off their feet a little bit and force them to work from a position where they're not comfortable. I love the way he utilizes his cardio as a weapon. It's an effective tool, especially against guys who possibly can't handle that. Starts to push the pace against opponents, especially if he sees them fading. He just amps it up that much more and really magnifies his advantage in that category. Now, where he's had some trouble, he had trouble with strong grapplers, guys like Damian Maia and RDA. If he gets put on the mat, he can absolutely be submitted. He's also had issues with really talented, dynamic power strikers, Lorenz Larkin and Santiago Ponzinibbio coming to mind. Guys that aren't afraid of his volume, aren't afraid of his power, will walk him down, blast him with low kicks, and then boom, come in with some big shots to the head, and they can really do a number on him. Now, as far as this fight, where does Martin fit into those equations? Martin's a good grappler, as I said. Again, it's more of a reactionary thing where if you take him down or try and take him down, he's going to try and counter into a better position and out-grapple you. But he tends to beat fighters that, as I said, rely heavily on takedowns. Moraes, Matthews, Ameev, LaFleur, Nakamura, all these guys that use their striking as their secondary weapon, he forces it to be their first weapon. And Martin is taken away, and that's where we've seen him have a lot of success. He uses his striking to win. Even if he's not the world's best striker, if he's the better of the two, that's a huge advantage for him. If Martin tries to take Magny down, this could actually tax his cardio and cost him. Even if it's a successful round one, it could cost him in rounds 2 and 3. Magny is the best all-around striker Martin has faced in a number of fights when you consider Magny's pace, volume, reach, cardio, and the variety of offense he's going to throw at him. Martin doesn't have the power or volume to really threaten Magny. I'm not saying you couldn't one-punch knock him out, or at least one-punch buzz him, put him down, submit him, anything like that. So, certainly those scenarios are there, but I think what you're going to see is Magny will press the pace, really push Martin, and he's going to be able to attack him from distance using that reach that he's not comfortable with, jab away at him, throw some kicks at him as well, and Martin's going to struggle to close that gap, and Martin is going to try and pick away at him with his striking range of between 35 and 50, 60 significant strikes, where Magny's going to be topping out between 80 and 100. And if Martin tries to uptick that game, can't get the offensive grappling going, he's just not going to be able to match Magny's volume. I think Martin might need a finish here, and I don't think he's going to get it. So my prediction is Neil Magny to defeat Rocco Martin by decision. The second of 3 bantamweight bouts on the main card features 2 potential title challengers as the 12-1 Cory Sandhagen takes on the 18-3 Aljamain Sterling. Currently looking at the odds, Sterling minus 125, Sandhagen a slight dog at plus 100. And this is the same division as the co-main event. These are 2 big fights. Those fighters, it's worth noting, those fighters in the co-main event, their current streaks are combined 0-5. When you look at these 2 guys, they have a combined winning streak of 11 fights. In fact, Sandhagen only owns a win over Assuncao, so it's very interesting. It goes Cody Gar Brandt, a former champion. Assuncao is a guy who's a veteran, who's been around for a long time. I get why they get the nod, but still you see why. What I'm driving at here. Now you look at Aljamain Sterling. He went 2-3 in a stretch and kind of was struggling for a little bit. He lost to Marlon Moraes, got knocked out, and really maybe that was kind of a low where he thought he was on the cusp, and here he had to start all over again. But he has rebounded nicely. Wins over Johns, Cody Stamann, Rivera, and Munoz more recently. Jimmy Rivera and Pedro Munoz. Very impressive 4-fight winning streak. For Sandhagen, he's won 7 in a row, 5 in the UFC. He beat the aforementioned Raphael Assuncao. He beat John Lineker by split decision. He TKO'd Yuri Alcantara. This is the biggest fight he's had to date by far, but again, he's put together a nice run as well. Basically, Sandhagen 4 inches taller than Aljamain Sterling, but only a 1-inch reach advantage. Sterling's got a very long reach. Actually, it's 1-inch reach advantage for Sterling. My apologies. Cody is the younger fighter by 3 years. Now, Sterling, he's really upped the level of aggression he utilizes in his fights. That has been one of his new focuses in recent outings. He doesn't sit back and counter nearly as much, doesn't try and kick you from the outside solely and get by that. In his last 2 fights, he's landed 174 and 101 significant strikes, so it shows his uptick has produced results. He moves very well. He's very fast, very fleet of foot. He moves both laterally and and in and out, back and forth. Heavy, his attack seems to be can be very kick heavy at times, very effective. But again, he's used more hands in recent outings with some good results. Again, nice variety of kicks. Front kicks, high kicks. He'll go to the body, he'll go to the head. He'll work low. He throws a nice left high kick, overhand right combination. His jab work has improved vastly. I both like and don't like the way he whips hooks to the head and body. I like it because it really is a nice technique in the sense he can really generate a lot of power. But at the same time, if he comes too wide with it, it leaves him open for more linear strikes down the middle. He can be counter-struck a little bit. He's very fast, I previously mentioned. He's very unorthodox with his striking and his movement. And you combine that with his lateral movement and in and out motion, it makes him very difficult to hit. You don't know what he's going to throw at you. You don't know where he's going to be. It's very difficult to time this individual and catch up to him. Now, the most success that Pedro Munoz had was kicking him to the body, kicking some, attacking his leg, hurting him to the body, slowing him down a little bit, and that took a little pep out of Sterling's step. And if we can see Sandhagen implement something similar, he could have success. Sterling was also taken down by Cody Stamann, but Sterling is very effective off his back. He's an excellent scrambler. He's just hard to keep down, and if you take him down and don't control him, he can wind up being in a position to finish you before you can finish him. Against Jimmy Rivera couldn't stayed on his feet, but Sterling implemented a more cage and clinch heavy attack, which was very effective. Now for Cory Sandhagen, he moves straight forward at times. He's got a lot of movement. He uses his range very effectively, but not as much lateral side-to-side movement as Sterling. He's more in and out, in and out, in and out. Throws a nice left hook to the body. He'll throw some nice left round kicks to the body as well. A front kick down the middle, which can do damage and be a bit of a range finder. He mixes in a jumping knee very effortlessly and very seamlessly into his offense at close range. Nice left jab. Everything comes linear and straight down the middle, which can be a very effective tool if Sterling gets a little bit wide and starts opening up. Now, I like the way he uses those fakes and feints to draw out his opponent's offense. It forces them to react and kind of tells him where they're going to be or puts them off balance. He'll need to do that regularly against Sterling to kind of keep Sterling guessing and keep Aljamain from entering and attacking without hesitation. Now, when you look at probably the biggest fight that Sandhagen's had was against John Lineker. It was a split decision. He got hit 106 times by Lineker. Lineker's far more than a brawler, and it's unfortunate to leave the UFC, but it's just the way it works. Lineker's a very talented, very capable striker. Landed 106 significant strikes on Sandhagen, who showed a good chin, showed ability to deal with damage. But looking at those numbers, we see he's very hittable. He does average more strikes than Sterling, but he also gives up significantly more, and that has to be a bit of a concern here. We saw him get put in a couple bad spots very momentarily by Lineker and Assuncao when it comes to the grappling game, and I would think Sterling will have more success in those two individuals because he is a little bit longer, he's a little bit bigger, and he's going to be able to control Sandhagen a little bit better than Assuncao and Lineker. I'm saying he's bigger than those two individuals, who just seem to have a little trouble controlling Cory based on how big he was. Now, I would say Sterling appears to have the edge in speed and potentially power. Neither man's going to melt your face, and if they connect with anything, they're probably going to hurt you, but I like the way Sterling's throwing stuff recently. Both men usually have a reach advantage. I would think it's going to impact Cory a little bit more, who doesn't move quite as effectively as Sterling, as far as I'm concerned. Look for Sterling, his less linear, more difficult to time offense to be a little less, or to be, my apologies, Sterling's less linear offense to be more difficult to time and predict, and that's going to be huge, especially if he kicks up that volume, where I don't think Sandhagen's going to be able to, Sandhagen can go for days. I don't know if he's going to be able to land as much against a speedier, quicker opponent, and especially the way Sterling moves in and out is just very unorthodox and unexpected where he attacks from. Sterling could absolutely find success on the mat here, out wrestling and out scrambling him. He's very good at holding position once he gets on the ground, and that is a very key aspect here, not to let Sandhagen counter you as he did against Assuncao into some bad spots. This is going to be a very fun fight regardless. Sterling seems to be a bit better state of development right now. He's a little bit faster, more creative, hits harder, better cardio overall. Close fight. My prediction is Aljamain Sterling to defeat Cory Sandhagen by decision. Moving now to the co-main event of the evening. We're again in the bantamweight division in another very important fight for a division that currently does not have a champion, despite the fact that Peter Yan and Jose Aldo apparently are lined up to fight for the title. The former champion, the 11-3 no-love Cody Gar Brandt, taking on 27-7 Raphael Assuncao. Currently Cody coming in as a favorite at -150, Assuncao returning at +125. Now with the bantamweight title now vacated, and of course Aldo and Yan lined up to potentially fight for the belt, the winner of this could be next in line. Again, we have a very good fight between the last two guys we just talked about, so that's worth noting as well. But again, there's all kinds of potential, especially a good performance in either one of these big bantamweight bouts could put you in line to contend for the title. Assuncao has been a contender for a long time, but he has lost back-to-back bouts to Marlon Moraes and the aforementioned Cory Sandhagen, and he had won 4 in a row prior to that, and 11 of 12 with his only losses coming against TJ Dillashaw, one of the champion that stopped Cody Gar Brandt's title away. Now Garbrandt defeated Dominic Cruz to claim the title. Looked fantastic start to finish, then instantly lost back-to-back fights to TJ Dillashaw, first his title, and then trying to reclaim his title, knocked out again, and then knocked out by Pedro Munoz in a fight I correctly predicted. Now, Garbrandt 3 inches taller. Assuncao will have a 1-inch reach advantage. Cody is the younger man by 9 years. Assuncao has been out of action for 10 months. Garbrandt has not fought in 15. Now, we very much have a clash of styles. Assuncao is very defensive, likes to counter-strike. He uses jiu-jitsu defensively, versus Garbrandt, who hits very hard, likes to engage. He can counter-strike, don't get me wrong. He can be technical, but he likes to initiate offense and will degenerate into a wild brawl. We'll talk more on that in a moment. Assuncao, he counters in combinations, which I really like. You throw one, he fires back 2 or 3, and he's relatively effective, and that can add up for you, especially if you do it enough. He can strike moving backwards, which is also a nice tool to have, especially against an aggressive fighter like a Cody Gar Brandt. He's hard to hit. His defensive game is very solid, and it's just, generally speaking, it's hard to get in range against him because he moves backwards so effectively for you to land your offense without getting countered. So that's one of the nice things he has going for him. He's got a decent overhand right. He's got some pop in his overhand right, hard low kicks, and he'll initiate his offense with these attacks, especially if he's looking to push forward. Again, not a ton of power, only 4 wins by knockout, but hey, that's not saying you can't hurt anybody and put them down if you land flush. He was getting cracked with some good shots by Sandhagen in that matchup. And Cory found some success by keeping his range, not moving forward too much, and really striking with Assuncao at a range that Raphael couldn't counter him with, and used a lot of kicks to do that. Now, I like the way Assuncao mixed up his striking with his grappling, and he shot in on a kick, took Sandhagen down, took his back, and Cory was the bigger man, was able to get out of it, and was relatively hard to control, but it was nice to see Assuncao mix up his offense. He needs to do more of that, especially in this fight. Now, looking at Cody Gar Brandt, he has lost 3 in a row. But he's not getting that step back in competition a lot of guys get. They lose 3 fights in a row and you get a step back in competition. Yeah, Assuncao might not be TJ Dillashaw's level, even though he owns a victory over him. Assuncao also owns a victory over Pedro Munoz in his debut. Munoz's debut. But this is a tough fight for Cody, so it's not necessarily the typical fight you get on a 3-fight losing streak. He's been knocked out 3 times in a row. That's very difficult to rebound from. I wonder if he's gun shy. He switched some things up, but again, you hear this a lot from fighters who have gone through difficult times. They switch things up. I feel very rarely do you see these big camp changes and go to Thailand or go here or go there really equate to a lot of success. And sometimes it just comes down to the fact that they're done. They got to the highest point they can get to, and they're not going any further. And now they're facing competition they're unable to compete with, and their career's in a downward trend. Now, Cody is far better when he is technical. When he remains technical, relies on his speed and his movement and his boxing. Very good boxing. He did so against Dominic Cruz, start to finish, and that worked out perfectly. But versus TJ Dillashaw and Pedro Munoz, when those fights degenerated into a brawl, he got clipped and he got finished. He looked good against TJ early. His hands were, and this is the second one, his hands were up. He was fighting at range. He was sliding back to avoid kicks. He wanted to be more calm. He wanted to kick more, and he was doing that very nicely. But then Cody got tagged when he hurt TJ and rushed in to try and finish him. He opened up, started throwing, TJ countered, and Cody was simply there, drawn into that brawl, and finished. Against Pedro Munoz, similar story. More kicks. He was sitting at range. He was darting in, looking fast, using that speed and combination of technique very effectively, not opening up like he has in the past, and that worked very well. And then boom, the fucking wheels came off the wagon. Munoz started having success with low kicks, landing his right hand, similar weapons what Assuncao has, by the way. And Cody opened up, got wild, tried to get some shots back, and started unleashing. All hell broke loose, and Cody got knocked out. Yeah, he tagged Pedro some big shots, but ultimately he's the one that face planted and lost that matchup. Now in this particular matchup, I see there are 2 scenarios here, and they have like sub scenarios, but you can see what I'm driving at. Number 1 is Cody stays elusive and fast, outworks him for a decision, or finds the kill shot. But he stays out of range, and Assuncao just can never land enough on him because Cody is so damn fast. That's quite possibly scenario number, that's the likely scenario that could happen for Cody to find success. For Assuncao, he's patient. He avoids Cody's offense. He uses counter strikes, and he kind of plays the waiting game a little bit. And he forces Cody to say, "Hey, look, I'm tired of sitting here. I'm going to try and be more aggressive. I'm going to push forward." And that's when Assuncao counters and hurts him. I usually love to jump on a fighter who's lost 3 in a row, pick them to win their next matchup, and in a large percentage of cases, that usually is the case. But Cody seems to be in a bad spot here. Look for Assuncao to use low kicks to slow him down, especially if he gets heavy on that lead leg, kind of take away that base, slow his movement down a little bit. Counter strike to hurt Cody, and I know a lot of people are underselling Assuncao's power, and I get it. He's not known for his knockout power, but I think Garbrandt's chin is in a major, major bad spot right here. I would think Assuncao either outworks him for a decision that, hey, might not be clear cut, might be close, or he finishes him. I'm going to take the latter. My prediction is Raphael Assuncao to defeat Cody Gar Brandt by TKO. And finally, in the main event of the evening, we're in the women's featherweight division as the women's GOAT, no hesitation saying that, the greatest of all-time female fighter, Amanda the Lioness Nunes, 19-4-0, puts her title on the line for the very first time against the Canadian Jiu-Jitsu specialist. I believe she goes by the name Phenom. She's 8-1. She is Felicia Spencer. Currently, the odds heavily in the favor of the champion. Nunes coming in at -600. Spencer returning at +450. Now, Nunes has been on an absolutely unreal run, and it's worth recapping. And every time we do this, we have to add another name to the list. Valentina Shevchenko, twice, taken her out twice. She's been the only girl who's had any really success against Shevchenko. Dismantled Miesha Tate, Ronda Rousey, Chris Cyborg, Holly Holm, most recently defeating Germaine Diarandami, and of course other names in there, Raquel Pennington, Sarah McMahon, and the list goes on and on. 10 consecutive wins, 5 bantamweight title defenses. This is her first featherweight title defense. Just unbelievable run that Nunes has been on. Now, Felicia Spencer, hey, no knocking her. She won the vacant Invicta featherweight title versus Pam Sorensen. 6-0 in Invicta, starting her career there. 3 bonus fights in those matchups. 2-1 in the UFC. She submitted Megan Anderson. TKO Dos Santos in her last fight. Decision loss against Cyborg. She went the distance with Cyborg, did some damage, cut her open, put pressure on her, and had a relatively effective fight. That was mixed in the middle. It wasn't a victory, but unfortunately that's the way it plays out. The situation with the featherweight division, especially with Cyborg gone, is there's not a lot of depth there. And in fact, you look at Spencer's path to the title. She beat Anderson. by submission, lost to Cyborg, and then took on Dos Santos, who Anderson also beat by submission, and then submitted Dos Santos. So you almost think it would have been better if both her and Anderson beat this one fighter, and then they collided for a shot at the title. Either way, that's not the point. We're here now. Physically, Nunes 2 inches taller, 1 inch reach advantage, 2 years older. Spencer is definitely a thicker girl, and she's a 145er. She's not very tall, but she's a strong girl, and that certainly is going to test Nunes. Certainly in this fight, it presents some interesting tests that she hasn't faced before. Now, as I said, Nunes is the GOAT. And if Spencer wins this, she will have done something none of the greats have been able to do. We have to go all the way back to Kat Zingano the last time Nunes lost a fight, and Nunes looked great in that matchup for a period of time. So the question has to be, when you're looking at these underdogs, is, as we know they're capable of winning, how does Spencer win this fight? How does Canada get a champion again? She's a Jiu-Jitsu black belt, first and foremost. She has completed 1 takedown in each of her 2 UFC wins and beat her opponent, smashed through their guard, got to a dominant position, and either TKO'd them or submitted them. Plain and simple. Whether, mounting them from top position, mounting them from back, and just she gets you down and you stay down, and that's how it goes. She has 4 wins by, as I said, 4 wins by submission overall, 2 TKO victories with elbows and strikes, so you know what I'm driving at here. She's very effective early on, especially at closing the gap, clinching and pushing her opponent into the cage, really, pressing off to get that wide base and try and push them into the cage where she can set up an opportunity to drag them to the mat. If she can take Nunes down, mount her, she absolutely has the ability to finish her. There's no question there. It also could bank some, if you can make Nunes work hard in rounds 1 and 2, Nunes' cardio has improved vastly, but we haven't seen her in a lot of adverse positions. And if Spencer gets on top of you for a full 5 minutes or a full 10 minutes, that might make, and doesn't finish you, that might make rounds 3, 4, and 5 very difficult for you to proceed through. And that's what you have to be aware of. Now, all that being said, Nunes is a Jiu-Jitsu black belt as well. Her takedown defense has been 80%. She has given up just 2 takedowns during her current 10-fight winning streak. The last time she was taken down on multiple occasions was that aforementioned loss to Kat. She was taken down 3 times in that bout. Later on, due to exhaustion mainly. She's a very sturdy, very strong, very physical girl. Now, the other thing you has to be worried, as I already said, Spencer showed a lot of heart against Cyborg, and she kept pushing. Now, her first round was effective, and she was in Cyborg's face. She was taking a lot of damage and getting beat up, but she was all over her at times and really pressing. And if she does something similar here, could she exhaust Nunes where it takes away a lot of Nunes' weapons? That's absolutely a possibility. But Nunes is coming off a fight herself where she landed 8 takedowns, and she has shown she can strike or grapple to win a fight. And I would say I don't think we'll see her try and take Spencer down and try and show that she can handle her on the mat. That might be silly, because I think she has a wide advantage on the feet. Cyborg did a good job of defending Spencer's pressure, landing clinch strikes, knees in close, landed a lot of offense as Spencer came forward, and really at times backed her off and capitalized on Spencer's willingness to just press forward wholeheartedly and engage. Nunes has excellent measured boxing. She can work at range. She moves in and out fairly well. She'll land with power while avoiding her opponent's offense and really sitting at her own range. Again, as I said, Felicia, good pressure, relatively good cardio, very strong girl. Can she keep it up against Nunes? Because Nunes has that power, has the jiu-jitsu. She's the type of girl, Cyborg found out, you hit her, or she hits you, you're in big time trouble. There are some concerns about Nunes becoming less focused, maybe underestimating a lesser-known opponent. And that certainly could be a problem with everything that's floating around. And that being said, she did state she wasn't willing to fight Spencer on short notice when they were talking about fights at the beginning of this COVID pandemic. So that tells me she is taking her seriously and realizing she is a legit threat. I think Nunes defends that early pressure. Stays mindful this is a 5-round fight, not a 3-round fight. Doesn't make any mistakes early on. Just clinches up. She might even lose the first round with pressure. Maybe not. I bet she'll create separation eventually, throw those hands, and continues to demonstrate her prowess. Picks up her first featherweight title defense, and my prediction is Amanda Nunes to defeat Felicia Spencer by TKO. So those are my 5 main card predictions for UFC 250. All of my preliminary picks will be available at kamikazeoverdrive.net, so please check them out. Follow me on KO_predictions on Twitter. My bet packs will be posted usually on Friday by the time I get to it. Again, it takes me a little while to get all the prelims in. I like putting as much time as I possibly can. I really enjoyed, I don't know why, I really enjoyed researching the fights of this card. And watching a little extra tape and just finding some nuances and some things that I feel have really informed my predictions. I could go 0-5 for all I fucking know, but hey, you know what? We do what we can and we lay our cards on the table and we see how things go. But I really like the fights and I like how I've I like how they came together as far as my predictions and such. So hopefully you enjoyed the show, and as always, thank you very much for tuning in, and I will talk to you soon. Take care, guys.